And we welcome you back to the Thundercast. We have Jon Easter from Ben Davis. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so uh, all right. Football season is around the corner. Basketball season is as well. Basketball just finished up Charlie Hughes, but but before we jump into basketball, jump basketball, but but
Good pun. Good pun. Yes.
yeah. Yeah. But what are your thoughts like on the Ben Davis football team like this year?
Well, I think it's going to be interesting. I think there's a lot of potential with the Giants, certainly with the new coaching staff coming in. I know that Coach Cooper has really, um, they've already been working, as most schools have. I mean, there's no off season really anymore in any high school sport, it seems like, except for like right now, which I believe is the moratorium week. But there's pretty much no off season anymore. So, you go around, they're out there working when they can, and the weight room and everything that they've been doing. Um, I think the biggest thing with Coach Cooper this year, and this is just me talking, um, you would have, I think, if he had his druthers, he would have rather gotten in there maybe a couple months earlier than he did, because that's always hard to come in like in March and try to get set, because a lot of like the winter workouts and things that happened, and he wasn't necessarily around to kind of do that. But he was doing double duty for a while, coming up from Bloomington North at the end of his requirements there, and then finally, I believe at the start of March, or may have been the start of April, came on at Ben Davis. So he hit the ground running. He's got some good assistants that are still left over, and then he's made a premium of hiring some alumni back and maybe some coaches back that people will know, especially on the offensive side. I'm not 100% familiar with what he's done defensively. He lost some coordinators from last year. The offensive coordinator from last year is now at Columbus East. Defensive coordinator is no longer on the payroll. Well, he may still be on the payroll, but he's no longer coaching with the football team. So the the big thing will be a lot of change. I think he's got some really good players. Obviously, you never really run out of good players at Ben Davis. It's just trying to get all those things going in the right direction. Last year, leadership was a problem, and I'm not saying leadership from a coaching staff or anything, but just leadership. He didn't have like the senior classes that they had. They lost a lot of seniors before, and so they were really developing those leaders as the season went along. So they always knew it was going to be a bit of a struggle with the schedule that they play at Ben Davis last year. But I think they've kind of worked through it. The schedule isn't easy, certainly. I mean, you started out the gate, you got Cathedral right off the bat, and then Avon, who is a rapidly improving program, as you know. Um, so these are, then you get into the MIC, which now includes Center Grove and Carmel again. Yay. So, there's no rest for the weary. We know Lawrence North will be back. We know LC with Coach Mann, who was at Ben
Mm-hmm.
Davis. Now he switches over there. They'll be good. Pike with Coach Brevard kind of took a step back last year. I know they experienced some losses too through transfers. I know their quarterback is now at Carmel. That'll be a big story. But I think that the groundwork is really there. And I didn't mention Center Grove, of course. Center Grove.
Yeah.
Uh, Everybody else in the mix. But I think the groundwork is there to be pretty good this year. I think Coach will probably get a grace year, try to establish himself and get himself in there. I think he's been successful. Maybe his record doesn't show it as much because he was at Perry Meridian, but he did a pretty good job there at Perry Meridian, all things considered. He was doing a pretty good job at Bloomington North as well. So I think he's going to come in. I think he knows what he's doing, and I think the Giants will hopefully pull in the right direction this year. Will the record be better? I don't know. Will they get out of sectional? I don't know. I mean, Brownsburg is in the sectional. Avon's in the sectional. Um, so, you know, will they get out of sectional? I don't know, maybe. I mean, I think this year will be another rebuilding year, but I think you're looking for progress.
Mm-hmm.
And I think offensively, they're going to be really good. Defensively, that was a big problem last year. Hopefully, they're better, and we'll see what happens as the Giants move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So, yeah. So if you didn't forget, but I hope you didn't. But, but, but I think you realize that Zionsville like is also like now in
Yeah,
sectional 11 now, like in
yeah,
football.
and Pike moved out, so they moved Zionsville in.
Yeah. 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 Now, now I was questioning that move at first, but then I realized, that that they had to do it, like because there's a lot of teams from 5A now moving to 6A, plus the like addition like of Maryville, like up north. So, yeah, yeah.
It's
Um,
kind of like moving chess pieces around for the IHSAA when they have to do that. And sometimes it doesn't make any sense on paper. I mean, I know there was a sectional alignment that had Ben Davis going to the east side a couple of years back where we were stuck in with Lawrence North and Lawrence Central for some reason and Warren. And I remember Mike Kirchner was coaching at Ben Davis at that time, and he kept calling us an East Side team, uh, which was funny because we're nowhere near the East Side and having to travel past all those other schools to get over there. But I think the IHSA by and large does a pretty good job trying to figure out sectionals. It would just be nice if it was seeded. I would like to see that, but there are
yes.
powers at work that don't want to seed the tournament. So um, you just kind of have to get stuck with the way the sectionals are aligned, and sometimes they make sense, and sometimes it's like they don't. But usually, when you look at a map, they kind of sort of make sense. But that particular one, when Ben Davis had to go to the east side, made no sense to me.
Yeah, yeah. So, uh, yeah. So the sectionals, like in my mind, that do not make sense up north. Lafayette Harrison in sectional number one does not make sense because they have to at travel over an hour for each game, or the other teams have to travel an hour to get there, and then the other one the other one that makes no sense, is Noblesville going to the section with the Fort Waynes.
Yeah, and
So,
those are just geographic issues.
mhm,
You only have what you can only put six. I mean, 32 teams. I guess 33 with
yeah,
Decatur in there this year. You can only put 16 teams or 17 if you're the extra team in the north, or 16 or 17 in the south. So it's just kind of what it is right now. I've always thought it'd be interesting, and this is just me thinking out loud. I always thought it'd be interesting. You have the success factor, right, where you
hmm
play up, but what if you're a team that struggles in 6A? Um, could there be a success factor that figures in there where you play down a class or two classes so that you're competitive? I've always thought that would be interesting. It would
yeah.
probably be really hard to to figure out, but I always thought that would be interesting.
Yeah, I get what you mean because there are some because there are some struggling teams uh, uh like in 6A. Now one of them is now in 5A, and that's Tech,
Yeah.
yeah, which yeah. Now I
and
do
that's
have a
enrolled.
yeah. Now I do have a success factor tournament. Success factor tournament. No, that's not such a thing. But I have a success factor question about Decatur. So what would it take for Decatur like to stay in 6A?
I believe, if I'm recalling, and again, I've slept since then, so don't hold me to this, but I believe that they have to win a regional to stay in 6A. So if they don't win a regional, I believe they drop back to
Yeah,
5A going forward, which is kind of where they should be from enrollment, but because of the
yeah,
success factor and all the success that they've had down there, or right around here. I live in Decatur, like right over the trees this way.
yeah,
Um, they're in 6A temporarily.
yeah. Uh, yeah. So the reason why I actually asked that is because I know that if New Pal actually wins I'm pretty sure if New Pal wins their sectional, either sectional like a regional, uh, then they move up to 6A. But if Decatur ends up winning a regional and New Pal moves up, then that's going to create like the problem. Like then that's going to create then that's going to create like a big problem of of uh, uh like then that's going to and then that's going to that's going to be making a like a new problem like for Decatur. Like if the powers say, hey, and say, hey, I know you have enough points like to stay up in 6A, but with New Pal moving up, like you have to play in 5A, or yeah, I don't know what they're
I
gonna
don't
do with that.
I don't know how that works with multiple teams. I mean,
No,
Cathedral always could move up to 6A too. So because they were there. I mean that and then fell back to 5A again, even though they could choose to play 6A if they really wanted to. Um, but Cathedral is a team that could come up to 6A. So I don't know what the contingencies are if there are multiple teams that move up into those classes. I don't know if it's capped somewhere or if they just kind of stick them in wherever they stick them in the sectional lineup. I know Center Grove probably doesn't want to see New Pal move up. I know that much.
I I think I think what they might do, because for some unknown reason, like they did this back back years ago, I think in 2018, but New Pal like, was in the north, like in the north side of the bracket, like, and it was New Pal Decatur Central in state for 5A. So they might have to put New Pal up north,
Yeah. I
like
don't remember exactly everything
yeah,
that shook out for that.
yeah, yeah. I have no clue for that. Yeah, I have
It
no
might have
clue.
been probably dependent on that Muncie, Mount Vernon sectional all around there. Wherever they went.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, so without being biased, who is your favorite like to win a 6A this year?
I mean, it really starts and ends with Brownsburg, doesn't it? I mean, they have everybody back and same coach. I mean, Brownsburg, I think, is the odds-on favorite until somebody beats them. And there are teams that can certainly beat them. I think you'll see probably Carmel take a step forward with Coach
Mhm.
Wright. Center Grove's not going anywhere. Ben Davis should be better this year in the sectional. Avon
Mm.
should be better, and we know that that's a rivalry between Brownsburg and Avon. There have been years where clearly Brownsburg was the better team, and Avon somehow has made it close or has beaten them. And so, I mean, you always keep waiting for, Brownsburg's kind of dispelled this the last few years, but you kind of waited for Brownsburg to Brownsburg at some point. They almost did it a couple years ago against a Ben Davis team that had no reason to be up that big in the first half, and then of course they come back and knock off Ben Davis, go on to win their first state title. And maybe that was them getting over the hump. But certainly with the kind of experience and the kind of players that they have coming back, and Coach, I mean, tremendous respect for Coach Hart and what he has done at Brownsburg. I mean, he took what Coach Comer had started to build, and he's just kind of kicked it up 5, 6, 7 gears, which should be no surprise. I mean, the man's won everywhere he's been,
Mm-hmm.
be it in Illinois or in Indiana. I remember first time I remember coming across Coach Hart is when he was at Evansville Wrights. They came up and played Ben Davis in a 5A semi-state one year, and Ben Davis won. But that was the first time I really became familiar with Coach Hart. And then he goes to Warren, and does his thing there. Then he leaves the state, does his thing over there, comes back, and resurfaces at Brownsburg. And I may have left out a couple moves in between, but he's just done a tremendous job with Brownsburg. So I really think it's 5A or 6A, pardon me, the conversation starts and ends with Brownsburg, whatever they do. I think though the typical people out of the north will be there. You'll probably have the Westfields, and it'll probably be a Central Indiana
Yeah.
state finals game again, which I know annoys people around the state, but let's face it, 6A kind of is housed in Central Indiana until further notice. I know Carroll got through a couple years ago. Penn every once in a while sneaks through up there, but for the most part, it's the MIC and the HCC, and I think we'll probably see that again. No reason to think we won't. Probably one of those representatives from one of those conferences will be there, or maybe at all. I mean, I think it's more likely you may see an all HCC game than an all MIC game, but you never know. I mean, it's going to be an interesting year. I think.
Yes.
I don't think 6A is wide open. I think kind of Brownsburg's kind of there at the top, and then maybe a couple teams right below them. But then there's pretty competitive group of teams right behind them, and I think it'll be a very interesting year in 6A.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if you saw, but the Center Grove schedule, is very interesting because week one they have the Mick game against Warren Central, then they have
That's kind of
non-con.
that's traditional, yeah,
Yeah.
coming back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's conference, non-con, all conference, then and then the conference teams. Then uh, the last week they host Bloomington South, not Bloomington
Yeah.
North. I don't know why I almost said Bloomington North. but yeah,
Well,
but yeah,
well,
but
I think you kind of have to take your hat off to Carmel and Cedar Grove and the Mick, because sometimes it's hard to go back.
mm-hmm,
It's hard to say, you know what, this thing got kind of way sideways, and we just need to figure this out, and let's come back together, because I think that we're better together than we were apart. Even though a lot of the MIC teams continue to play Center Grove, I know Ben Davis never dropped either one of them, with the exception of the year that Ben Davis played IMG. They dropped Center Grove for that year, but Ben Davis has never dropped Center Grove or Carmel. Other schools have, and now they're back together, and everybody seems to be happy. And I'm happy to have, as somebody who's watched the MIC when I was in high school, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. There was no Mick. Ben Davis was independent, and Warren was it. You had independent teams locally. And so Ben Davis kind of played everybody in the state. They kind of had a murderer's row schedule back then because they would play Penn and then they would travel and play Bloomington South. And then, that was kind of the way Ben Davis scheduled back then. And then every once in a while, I'd be like, oh, Lake Central is on the schedule. Why is Lake Central had a great program at that time,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like, why are they? I think Ben Davis played East Chicago one year, trying to fill out their schedule. So it got very challenging to do a schedule because when you're good, and this is kind of Ben Davis boys basketball territory, nobody really wants to play you when you're good. And, I'm sure Fishers and everybody in basketball is kind of feeling that right now. Probably Brownsburg's feeling that in football as well. Nobody wants to play you when you're really good because nobody
Mm-hmm.
wants to get their tails kicked.
Yeah.
So, from that standpoint, the MIC came together kind of because it was like, well, hey, we're having all this trouble scheduling. Hey, North Central. Hey, hey guys, you want to get together and form this conference? And that's kind of how the MIC came together in 1996. Center Grove kind of jumped in, and I think full 97 because at first it was 6 teams, and the Terre Hautes came on board. And so, which again, you think Terre Hautes in the MIC, but
Does not
that's
make
how
sense.
it was. And then 2013, the Terre Hautes leave, and then Pike and LC come in, which made a lot of sense. And so that's kind of where the MIC is. So as a MIC fan, I'm really happy that it's back.
Yeah. 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 So you did mention like the Terre Hautes, like in the Mick. To me, that. Uh, uh, to me, to me, talent wise, that makes sense. Uh, travel wise, no, that does not make sense because they have to travel from their side of the state all the way to central Indiana.
It was bad for them, but I got to tell you, I mean, the Ben Davis girls basketball team has some years the just the craziest schedule. And you play Fishers and HSE, and that can take you like an hour and a
Mm-hmm.
half to get up there sometimes. They play Westfield, that could take you a long time to get up there. It would, if there wasn't any traffic or if there wasn't an accident on I-70, it's like 45, 50 minutes from Ben Davis to get down to Terre Haute, or maybe an hour. Probably that's more like it because you
Yeah.
can't really fly if they're out there patrolling. But it's not all that much of a difference. I would suppose it was hard on the Terre Hautes though, but
Yeah.
they have to travel wherever they go because just they're kind of landlocked, and I'm sure it's only going to get
Worse.
there's going to be a lot of change when those schools consolidate.
Yeah. Yeah. But I did mention, that it's going to get worse now next year. Not next year, like, but this upcoming season, because now they're in the Sagamore, which
Yeah,
which which that's a all which that's probably like the most uh so the Sagamore conference is definitely like the longest trip conference I know, because you have the Terre Hautes, then you got Lafayette Harrison, which is 2 hours away from the Terre Hautes, McCutcheon as well, Lebanon, but then you get into the middle, Danville.
right.
But yeah.
Yeah, and again, for those teams, there's still a lot of travel for those teams, but when you're when you're the Terre Haute, you're always traveling in, and
Yeah.
so I'm sure they took that all into account. But it will be a single Terre Haute, I believe, at some point, whatever they're going to call the school. But I
Yeah.
believe it will be a single Terre Haute because I believe they're going to consolidate. So
Yeah, they will.
um, that'll make things interesting. The Sagamore, there are so many good leagues around Central Indiana, really. The MIC and the HCC get talked about, but the Mid State is a great league. I mean, especially for like girls basketball, the Mid State is just a hard league to win. And in
Hmm.
football, and just so many really good, and all the other sport. I mean, baseball, the Mid State's a tremendous
Mm-hmm.
league in baseball. Probably better than the MIC when you talk about it. But
Yes.
those are there's so many good leagues, and there's been so much conference movement too, which I always find interesting. It's not unlike
Now,
what you
oh,
see nationally in
yeah,
college. You see all these conferences moving around. The MIC got back together. How weird is that?
yeah, yeah, I know. Now, when the Terre Hautes do combine, now that's gonna be the weird thing, like for football, because when they do combine because of their size, they're gonna be propelled up to 6A, like because of their
Yeah,
like enrollment, which is gonna be very hard for them, uh, which is gonna be very hard for them because not only yeah, that's gonna be very hard because I don't know what sectional like they would be in.
I would assume they'll put them in with Ben Davis and Brownsburg and
Avon.
Avon. I mean, yeah, somewhere in there. They may have to split that section on more.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Now, yeah. Now, what would be funny? What would be funny? Like, is when that new Terre Haute school gets into 6A. What would be funny is if the IHSAA moves Brownsburg up north.
well, it's simple math. I mean, it's like you just draw a line somewhere, and it's like the 16 teams north and 16 teams south. And
Yeah.
somewhere that line, I mean, right now it's right there at sectional four, you know, but you have to figure that out. There have been what a couple of years that Carmel has come south, so it could happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Plus, plus with the addition like of Zionsville now being on the south side of the bracket uh,
Yeah,
this year.
Zionsville's a good example of the
Mm-hmm.
team that was north now it's
Yeah.
south, and
Yeah.
Zionsville's kind of been on that line too between 5 and 6A because there have been some years. I think there was one year that Valpo and them switched. Like Valpo was in 5A, and then the next year they were in 6A. So that bounced Zionsville down to five. I can't remember everything, but
And there's another team too, like that is on that line, and that's Lafayette Harrison too.
yeah,
Because yeah, I know that they're a big school, but so okay, so Lafayette Harrison is a big school, but I've been inside it, and it makes it seem like to you that yes they're a big school, but it's also small because it has
yeah,
that small school feel inside of it. Because I've seen pictures of their main gym, like their main gym, like is tiny for no reason. Then we get to their cafeteria, which I don't want to. I do not. I never want. I never want to relive that situation again. Let me tell you this story. My
okay,
senior year of football. Yeah, my senior year of football. Week two, Plainfield went up to Lafayette Harrison to play on a Friday night. We got up there. We were warming up. Lightning delay came.
yeah,
Then we had to go into the cafeteria. A few minutes later, not just rain, monsoon rain came, washed everything out, and then we had to get onto the bus, drive back home, get up early, like the next morning, drive back up there, and then play. And I can tell you, we would not have won. Uh, uh like Plainfield would not have won. Like that on that Friday night because we were not like energetic, but but when we got back out there, there was no crowd at all for Harrison, and we just destroyed them.
yeah. We had a similar situation a few years back with Ben Davis, where it was actually I think the last time Ben Davis went to Terre Haute North. I want to say. And there was it was like hurricane blew through at halftime. And I mean, flags blowing down. I mean, it was crazy. Lightning everywhere. And the everybody was like, we want to finish this tonight. We don't want to come back tomorrow. But Terre Haute North, for whatever reason, they're like, nope, we have to come back tomorrow. And it's, are you serious? So yeah, I got a warning ticket in Stylesville over that one. That's another long story.
Yeah. 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 Now, now, I think the reason why like Terre Haute North actually decided to move it is because they didn't have turf to play. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that could be, but everybody like both principals. Yeah, I mean, well, both athletic directors, but I think it might have been somebody in administration at Terre Haute that wanted it not to happen. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was trying to figure out. It may have been South. I get them confused. It's like the schools are carbon copies of each other. If you've ever been, it's like
Yes.
football stadiums are the same, the gyms are the same. It's like, I mean, they have different graphics and stuff,
Yeah.
but they do have good concessions though at Terre Haute.
Yes. Yeah.
Big hot dogs, and they're
Yeah.
really nice. They were always both Terre Haute North and South very courteous to radio and media members. So we
Yeah.
always remember stuff like that. We do.
Yeah. 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 But I do have to agree with you, like on the whole carbon copy thing, because
Yeah.
I've been to both schools many times, like for both basketball and football, and the but the differences with Terre Haute South, like they have a big video sponsor board. Terre Haute North doesn't, but it's the same exact school but different colors.
Yeah.
And now they're
Well,
now.
one's the Braves and one's the Patriots. And do not, when you're doing PA, ever get them confused. I'm just saying, because their fans will let you have it. Not that I ever did that.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I
Yeah.
ever did that at all, but I totally did that once. And
Um.
as people are walking out, it's Terre Haute North. We're Terre Haute North. We're Terre Haute. It's like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
uh,
Tales from the PA booth.
um.
That could be another podcast.
I'm pretty sure. Um. I don't. I don't know why I was doing this, but this happened multiple times multiple times, like when I was doing baseball PA, like at Plainfield. This, so this so I think it was during one of the Marksville games, and like in a few games, and I didn't notice. I didn't notice like until I actually said it like another time, but I kept on calling those teams Whiteland. Like,
It happens. It really
yeah,
does.
yeah,
Sometimes you just get a mental block and you mess up and I don't know how many times there's been a time where I'll miscall a player or something, and it's like I see them, I know what I've written down, but it just the name doesn't come out right, and so had that happen so many times,
hmm
and it was like I said, that could be a whole different podcast. It's just PA stories because I've got some good ones for that. Radio stories that could be a whole nother podcast. Crawling around back in the days, we had to find where they would install phone lines. You haven't lived until you've crawled under for Buffs bleachers and scratched your back on the bottom of their bleacher. Oh, yeah, there's some good times in there.
I'm
We used to, now everything's with phone line,
Mm-hmm.
cell phones and stuff. Back, I mean, used to have physical phone lines that you would have to find sometimes. I came in right on the end of that. I'm glad we don't have to order phone lines anymore. It's much cheaper too, because they
Yes.
would, it was expensive to do that.
Yeah. 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 Definitely. All right. So now that goes from the. All right. All right. So that's enough talk about football and just those sorts. Basketball.
Yeah.
Basketball. There's gonna be some great games this year, like on the boys' side, like with, uh, like in Central Indiana as a whole, like in some interesting stories too.
Yeah, I think 4A is going to be a lot of fun this year. I think there's what, three or four teams that have probably separated themselves from the rest, but there are a bunch of teams out there that could certainly end up moving up. And I'm not sure we've seen all the transfer stuff play out yet either. So, that's still going on and will probably still be going on through the first 9 weeks of school. Um, which I mean, it kind of is what it is now. That's kind of where we are in Indiana high school basketball. And this, we haven't seen how the new personal branding stuff is going to
Yeah.
play out as well. That's new. And I know the IHSA is taking a lot. I'm not here to carry water or shill for the IHSA on this, but they've been proactive. So you kind of have to give them some credit on both of those
Yeah.
things. They were proactive before the state legislature made them do something on transfers, and then they were proactive again too on this personal branding thing. And there's um, even though they other states have kind of figured that out too. The IHSA kind of saw a need and at least made a
Yeah.
ruling. So we'll see how all that stuff plays out. But back to your question about basketball, I think 4A is going to be incredibly interesting. I think you have a lot of really solid 3A programs too in the state. This is
Hmm.
going to be a year to
Yes.
watch.
Yeah. Yeah. And so so I'm going to now list off like the teams that are the major underdogs, like for three A and 4A. Starting off with 4A, uh, uh, so okay, before we get into the 4A underdogs, so the four teams like in the four teams like in Class 4A that I do have to say that have definitely separated themselves: Fishers, Homestead, yeah, Fishers, Homestead, Pike, and Pike, like Pike and New Albany. But for
You
four,
forgot Carmel.
yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
There's
But
five, I guess.
yeah, yeah, I know. But then, but there are some, but there are like a few, but there are a few teams like to watch for too that could come up, and it's mainly in the South.
Yeah,
Like, uh, it, like I can't believe I'm saying this, but Decatur Central now has a good now has a good basketball program
yeah,
out of the
you do.
blue. So and I can tell you this: Decatur is winning the mid-state, no question, because because it, because I saw how Plainfield like was doing like in the Charlie Hughes, and there's still major questions on like on that Plainfield team.
Well, and I think Decatur will have a very, very good record
Hmm.
this year too, because they have actively worked to make that schedule a little lighter. I'm just being honest. I mean, obviously they go through the mid-state, which is a tough conference, but they're non-conference. They don't play Ben Davis anymore. They don't play some of the teams they used to play on that schedule. So they're going to have a very good record this year. I think a lot of people will be like, "Wow, look at Decatur," because I think they're going to be really good. With
Yes.
Coach Serber does a great job. I mean, what he's done with that program and what they did last year. I
Mhm.
mean, they kind of took the sectional that they had and um, then extended that out and just continued to win. And hats off to Coach Serber because he's done a tremendous job with that program.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, so I am a big proponent. Okay. 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 Talk normally, please. But if I were a head coach, okay, if I were a head coach, uh, like of a smaller team, like of a smaller team, like in 4A, but what I would do is, I like I would try to schedule like the hardest teams, like the hardest teams, like to help out, like uh, uh like come tournament time, because because there are cases where because there are cases like where when really good teams during the regular season, they have a really good record, playing field for one, but it's because they don't, play like the toughest teams. But
Well, look at Brownsburg.
yeah,
Look what they did a couple years ago. I mean, they had no business winning a sectional, and they won that sectional a couple years ago because they were tested. They had a losing record going into the sectional, but they were tested, and I think that is incredibly important to be tested when you head in there.
yeah, uh, yeah. Now you just mentioned Brownsburg. I'm going to mention them again. Like this past season, they had no business. They had no business uh, destroying Ben Davis, completely dominating that game. They had no business being close with Pike like in the first half, but uh, it, but they did. But they did. Like like yeah, like yeah. But I do have to say, like if Decatur like is scheduling a lot more softer teams, that might hurt them. I mean, that might hurt them in the long run. Because yeah,
Well, and the sectionals have slightly changed too. I'm not sure where they shook out in the whole sectional realignment, but I
uh,
know
they they are in the same sectional, except there is a little switch.
Mooresville.
Yeah, like there's a little switch, like with Mooresville now entering sectional 11, and like in Greenwood moving up to 4A. Uh, uh,
So, I mean, they're going to be the favorite in that sectional.
mhm.
Depending on how the regionals get drawn, you want to be ready for a really good team at semi-state. Probably if
Yeah,
you're them, be ready for that really really good semi-state team. They could end up with somebody in really good team in the regional as well. Because I don't think Lawrence North's going anywhere. I don't think some of those teams are going anywhere. Warren Central is going to be back with their new coach. Um, they're it's a meat grinder in Central
yes,
Indiana, but I think that you can do yourself a favor. And again, you know, I'm not criticizing Coach Serber, but why aren't they why aren't they playing Ben Davis? I don't understand that. Um,
yeah, I know.
we're neighbors. I really think that anytime there's a potential there for such a huge rivalry between the schools, it's historical.
Yeah,
Um, and I don't understand why they don't want to play Ben Davis. Why doesn't Avon jump on with Ben? And I'm not here to advocate for that, but it's just you can get yourself a schedule that's too hard. And I think sometimes, if you look at the Ben Davis girls schedule, it might be a little bit too hard to start out because no matter how good you are, if you start out with HSE, Brownsburg, Fishers, Plainfield, by the time you get to Attucks, you maybe have maybe one of those games, maybe lost all four. I mean, so I think that and that's just, again, that's just circumstance. That's because that's historically the way that schedule's gone. I think I left Warren Central out of the mix too, on that schedule. But that is that's an extreme too. I think you can get too hard.
Yeah.
So I think that you want to mix. I think that you
Yeah.
want some teams that you would hope to win, so that you get some confidence, so that you can work on some things, especially early. But you don't want to make it so hard that you're going to be 1-5 through 6 games or
Yeah.
something, because that's not what you want either. So I think there's a balance to it. Certainly, you don't want to go overboard, but yet you want to keep it so that everything is in front of you, and so that you are preparing yourself. Because I mean, you can go 0-20 and you still make the tournament in Indiana.
Yeah.
Um, you probably aren't going to be going very far, but every year it seems like there's a team that wins a sectional, and you're like, how is a 13-12 team here this far?
Hmm.
And if you go back and you look, it's probably because they played a really tough schedule and we're in a really good conference. And
Yeah.
I think if you're going to be big time, you got to look at those things. So I don't know what Decatur's done to, like, I don't know if they're in the Sneakers for Santa. I don't know if they're in the
Uh,
Forum tournament. But you would figure that they would try to get into some of those. I would hope, if you're.
um, uh, um, at, so, so as of right now, like on John Harrell, I like the only shootout like that they're in right now, like is the Goblet games, but with which that schedule came out too. But we have Decatur like in Park Heritage playing that game.
Yeah, Park Heritage. That's good. That's a good basketball program right there.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
They
Yeah,
are
I know.
good, and they play anybody too. They
Yeah,
don't just play 2A teams. They'll play anybody. Scheduled 4A teams last year, and
and
that benefits you. It really
yeah,
does.
uh, yeah, I know.
What good
And,
is it to go? What good is it to go 21-1 when your one loss is in the sectional?
nope.
What good is it? You might as well use that regular season to prepare yourself for the postseason. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
But what do I know? I'm just a high school radio teacher.
yeah, 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 but yeah. So yeah. So after the Plainfield boys basketball season, like last year after losing to Pike, like I was having a conversation like with Jonathan Stevenson, and but we both agreed that what Plainfield should have done, like okay, the Plainfield schedule last year, which which I'm looking at now because I had the poster like up on the door. But I think what they should have done was try to push more of the tougher teams to the second half of the season, like to get more prepared, like for yeah, to get more prepared, like for Pike. But I think the game that killed Plainfield like was Terre Haute North, because because I went to every Plainfield game at okay, I went to every Plainfield game except like the Lawrenceburg tournament, which of course is Lawrenceburg,
That's a long way.
but yeah, but after the Terre Haute North game, but after the Terre Haute North game, Plainfield struggled against Warren. Plainfield definitely struggled against Greenwood. Like like Plainfield had no business struggling against Greenwood because Greenwood lost by 20 to a bad Perry Meridian team last year. Then Then we have Southport, which is not a good team. Franklin was not a good team, and of course Zanesville, who's not a good team. So, yeah, so Plainfield played back to back to back weeks, not weeks, but back to back to back games against bad team, three bad team, actually technically four bad teams in a row, uh, but it was like three bad teams, but but yeah, and that's what hurt them in the second half against Pike. But I do have to say, I do have to say that I do have to say that if Plainfield actually had played like what they did in the first half, second half of Pike, we would be looking at a different thing right now of where uh, 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 of where it would have been Plainfield Brownsburg like in the sectional championship because Plainfield should have won.
Well, again, when you look at sectionals, right, you're kind of a prisoner to where you are. So location wise. And again, and this is something I think the IHSA gets wrong. A lot of people disagree with this. A lot of people say, well, you're going to have to play the tough team somewhere in the tournament. Might as well play them early. I'm not somebody that advocates for that. I think that sectionals should be seeded. The sectional came out pretty much like it should have seeding wise, but I don't know what the harm is of seeding a regional or kind of looking at how things might break down and just trying to make sure that you don't have Pike and Plainfield playing in the first game. I think that's something that gets wrong because it's hard on Pike too. I mean,
Yeah.
you survive against Plainfield, and then you know you get what happens to you the next round. And why should a team that somehow schedules a bye and gets to like Friday, why should they have an advantage when they may be the team that went 3-17 in the season and they
Yeah.
draw the Friday bye and you have number 1 and number 5 playing in the first game. I don't from a standpoint of just running a tournament. I don't get why you want that to be happening. Don't you want your big game to be the championship game? And we've been really lucky the last few years. We've gotten some really good state championship games. I mean, I think North South typically has balanced out where you have good teams in the North, good teams in the South. But, if you go back to like Kokomo, Ben Davis, that was, heavyweight battle. You had, 15, 16,000 people at Bankers Life Fieldhouse to watch that game or Gainbridge, sorry, to watch that game. So that's what you want on a
Mm-hmm.
good year. You don't want just a team that has survived and then they end up, getting a Fishers or a Carmel or something like that. Wouldn't you want like the best team to have the best chance to get there? But I understand that's not the way that the IHSA has ever played it. It's always been like luck of the draw. It's like what the top 8 of 10 teams are all in the South. It's like, well, it's just the way it is. And that's unfortunately probably what's going to happen for you this year because a lot of good teams are in the South, and Carmel and Homestead and Fishers are all just chilling. Knowing they have to knock off each other. South, there's a good South Bend team too, isn't there? Is it Riley?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
one of those teams is probably gonna get through,
Yeah.
and they won't have nearly the trek that you do through the South. Of course, I'm kind of contradicting myself because it's like, shouldn't you want the hardest road and not in the tournament?
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. But you mentioned something about uh, 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 but you mentioned like something about Fishers, Carmel, like in Homestead knocking each other
Yeah.
off.
in the
but
same Fishers in the same sectional with Carmel.
yeah, uh,
I mean, that makes no sense. One of those teams could represent the North this year, and they're in the same sectional. Tell me why that makes sense. It
yeah,
just
I
doesn't to
know.
me.
Uh, yeah, I know, and but you do have to like remember too like what happened to Carmel last year, beating
Right.
Fishers, going on to play Fort Wayne Snyder, somehow losing to Snyder. Should not have happened, but it did. And then Snyder went on, lost to Crown Point, and then Crown Point went on to state and lost to Mount Vernon. Like that's
Right.
pretty much how the entire tournament played out after sectionals. Like, but yeah, but now, okay, that's enough for 4A. But I think a couple teams like in 3A to watch. I think the number one I think the number one team to watch for like in 3A is not Park Heritage. Sullivan. I had to I have so Sullivan, yes, they did lose guys, but they looked really good like in the Charlie Hughes tournament, and they just and I think they only had one loss, like in that shootout, and and of course that loss was to a good Addicts team, but Sullivan barely lost to Addicts, like, uh, uh, like, uh, yeah, uh, and the whole thing like with Sullivan too, like they also played Tri West, they beat Tri West. I don't know like the other two teams they played, but all I know is to watch out for the new like 3A team Sullivan. And the funny thing, they did not get to 3A because of success. Like it's actually because of enrollment,
Yeah.
which is really shocking to me. Which is really shocking to me, and I say that uh, because I went to Sullivan last year. I'd like to watch like Sullivan Brown County last year at SHS at Sullivan, and Sullivan's high school like is small, and and they are growing. Like Sullivan is growing.
Yeah, I don't know what's driving the growth around that school. Sometimes, like with Plainfield, you can kind of see what's driving the growth around
Hmm.
Plainfield, or Avon or Tri-West or some of the schools, Cascade. You can kind of see what's driving that growth. I don't know what's doing it down there.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not. That's an area of the state I'm not so familiar with.
yeah, I know. Yeah, I know, and
I know
like
the
so,
Hatchet House is down there in that area. That's
yes,
what I know.
yes, but but uh, but I'm pretty sure. I have no idea what's feeling like the growth, but uh, now Sullivan did get transferred last year, like which was Christian Bryan, like from Northview, uh, and that was a big addition, uh, like to Sullivan, but but they went on like and they ended up losing to a really like a really good Linton squad, like in the sectional championship, which I was there, of course, at North Knox. So I made my way. So I,
You get around, man.
yeah, oh yeah, which I have to say, that the North, that I have to say that North Knox for a small school, like they have a, like I mean they have a good way. I mean they have a good way like of doing the concessions, because they okay their concessions like are upstairs. Like when you get upstairs, upstairs from the gym area, like you actually go into their cafeteria. I mean that's where they have their concessions, like in their
Nice.
actual cafeteria, and I absolutely love how they did it. It was really nice, and they also had a TV setup too, and they had a TV set up there like to for the sectional championship.
So you
But
can
yeah,
watch it. That's
yeah,
nice.
yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. So there's another 4A team I didn't mention, Zionsville. Zion, Zionsville is going to be a very sneaky team this year, uh, because they were a younger team last year, and with the addition like of Andy Weaver, Zionsville is going to be sneaky this year.
Yeah. No, I agree. Coach Weaver knows how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now there is a must see game. There is a must see game for me this year, and it's Zionsville at Plainfield because since Plainfield went there last year, Zionsville has to come this year, and so it's going to be Coach Weaver like returning to Plainfield.
The Weaver Bowl.
I did not I was not thinking about the name of that, but that's a good name for it. But uh, but it's going to be the third year in a row that's going to be Weaver versus Groninger. Because the
Mm-hmm.
last 2 years it's been Weaver versus Groninger, Plainfield versus Mooresville, and now it's Plainfield Zionsville, which
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Now, now I don't know. Now I don't know if you've seen, but the Plainfield schedule like is very. But the what? Actually, I'm not going to tell you because I already sent you like the Plainfield schedule from the whole John Harrell. But I have to say that the but I have to say like the whole thing like now I have to say I mean the whole thing like with Plainfield next year like Plainfield is still scheduling good teams, and it and if Plainfield gets better during the season, playing those good teams, Plainfield might be sneaky in their sectional. Plainfield's definitely going to be like the worst ranked team in the sectional. No, actually no, that's a lie. That's gonna be Avon. I've seen
We'll see
Avon
where
so
the
far.
Giants shake out. I think the Giants are
Mm-hmm.
going to be real young next year, so we'll
Mm-hmm.
see. I mean,
Yeah,
Coach Carlisle knows how to get it done, but we'll see where the Giants shake out too.
yeah. But yeah, but the whole thing with Avon, like I was thinking about them, like they got destroyed by Shortridge. They got destroyed by Shortridge, like at Charlie Hughes. So what?
Well, I know with Ben Davis, you told me they went 2-2.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think one of the wins was Anderson. That was a nice win for him because
Yeah,
Anderson's a pretty good team. Burbuff, I think, right? They lost
yeah,
to Burbuff. So I mean, that sectional is loaded as
yeah,
always. You're
yeah.
gonna have Pike in there, probably the favorite. Brownsburg will be back. Uh, you know, who knows what's going to happen with the other teams
Yeah.
in there. I mean, we'll see where Ben Davis shakes out. I know that they had another JV team that had a great year at Ben Davis. They've been rolling out the JV teams. That's been sometimes those JV teams are woo. It's like you watch them and you're like, man, it's like running clock at halftime just about. So, um, I think there's a lot of good youth on the Ben Davis team and in the Ben Davis program right now.
Um.
But I just don't know how that's going to translate to varsity.
Yeah.
That was a major problem this past year, just because they had lost a number of seniors the year before. The thing, the thing about Ben Davis is when you keep so many seniors in the program and they don't go other places, then that you get them the next year. It's like, oh, they're already juniors and seniors. You haven't
Yeah.
had that chance like the state championship team developed for as freshmen. They got some starting time and moved up all 4 years. So It's like when you get them every year, you're just basically getting them for their junior or senior year. And I think that sometimes they don't make that jump from JV to varsity so easily. They maybe don't know what that's going to be like because there is an adjustment. You go from JV to varsity. There's an adjustment there. So
I think I think that's gonna be the same way. I think that's gonna be the same like with Plainfield this year, because because so Plainfield of course kept Harper, but I think more than half of the varsity team like this upcoming year like is gonna be from the freshman squad last year, because Plainfield's freshman squad like was probably the best freshman team I've seen. Because the only game they lost was a very close game to Carmel,
yeah,
and uh, like yeah, but the but I was looking like at some of the pictures at, and stuff like for Plainfield basketball, and it looks like that one of the freshmen from last year like is actually going to be starting varsity this year.
yeah,
Like yeah, like I had to say I had to say that I am saying this, but Plainfield's going to be like a very young team this year, and it's going to be difficult at the start of the season. But but uh, uh, but I think with the coaching staff they have now, like Coach Groniger, uh, Coach Rodkey, uh, uh, and another name to mention, Coach Green is back on the uh, not me, uh, not me sadly, but uh, but Coach Dannon Green, like one of the like the head coach when they won state, back on the
yeah,
sideline. But
yep.
but I think with those good coaches and with that high energy, now I had to say Plainfield, in my mind, my prediction going to be the second best team in county. Brownsburg's winning county this year. Like Brownsburg's going to be back winning county, and the second and back to Avon. I think Avon's going to be the second worst team in county. Either worst team or second worst team. Definitely not. Actually, no, definitely not the worst team because there's a team I'm not mentioning, Danville. No one mentions like like I don't see Danville having like a good year again this year. I think there's gonna be multiple games with the Sagamore Conference with Charlotte North and Lafayette Harrison where they're probably gonna lose by 50 again because Danville is not gonna be good. But and and that whole thing like with the county tournament now for basketball. Uh, uh, okay, okay, they did like release that bracket thing like for the winners tournament for county, and the county tournament like is much different than past years because for the past few years Plainfield's been hosting like the second round, but Plainfield's not anymore. So Plainfield's hosting like the first game. Now once again we're against Avon because Hendricks County loves pairing us and Avon together for no reason. But the winner of that game has to go to Cascade and play Cascade, which is going to be Plainfield at Cascade. It's going to be Plainfield winning that game, going to the county championship against Brownsburg, and then getting demolished by Brownsburg. Like it's, but I am
You can
hoping.
see it coming.
I can definitely see it coming because I know Avon, and I know that Avon is not good. Avon's not going to be a good team. But like they lost everybody, and they and and I'm pretty and I was talking to one of their old players, Jerome Lomax, before he trans. But okay, I'm pretty sure you're like familiar with the Lomaxes, like at Brownsburg. but
Yeah, I know the name.
yeah, but they were both at like an Avon. But Jerime like was actually telling me that when he was over there, like he could see that the younger classes had no talent uh, uh, there at Avon.
Well, I think Coach Taylor was there for the long term. He understands that it may take him
Yes.
a couple years to get him where he wants to. He knows what he's doing, though. Uh,
Yeah.
as evidenced by his 1 year when he was at Ben Davis with the leading the varsity squad there when Coach Carlisle was out. He took them all the way to state, and that was a good basketball team. But he did a really nice job that year, kind of unsung a little bit because of the circumstances and everything. But if people stick with him there at Avon,
Yeah.
he's really good at player development. I know
Yes.
that much. So just I hope people stick with him.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But what I was saying too, but the thing with Plainfield, my hope my hope like is that Brownsburg's playoff, not playoff, but Brownsburg's sectional magic transfers over to Plainfield, and Plainfield somehow wins sectionals this year. But that's not
It
going to
could
happen
it could happen.
because I mean, it could happen, but I don't. But I think with Coach Lynch, like with everything at Brownsburg, I don't think Brownsburg is going to be letting go like with their magic anytime soon.
Hmm.
But all right, the final question I have for you before we leave is a question I ask everybody on this podcast. What
Okay.
what are your favorite gyms that you've been to?
Oh man, that's a great question. Um, Here in Marion County, it's Southport. I mean, I think that gym is one of the finest in the state. Probably my second or third favorite overall. But for me, it's always been the Muncie Fieldhouse. I went in there as a high schooler and calling games for WBDG, and they have this little tiny little press box, and it's actually up in the top of the stadium. So you're not down courtside, you're at the very top of the Muncie Fieldhouse, and you get a sense of just how big that place is. Because I think it was built in like 1928 or something like that, and it's a very special place. Unfortunately, I don't get a chance to go there anymore since Ben Davis and Muncie Central haven't played in several years. But that is a phenomenal place to watch a basketball game. And then probably number two for me would probably be Southport, and then three would be Newcastle because that Newcastle gym
Yeah,
is, I think, just the scale of it. If you're in that gym, it's special because it's the biggest one. I mean, I know Seymour, they want to argue this, but um, when you when you count seats that are actually like bolted down, Seymour may actually have more seats, but Newcastle wanted that largest and finest so bad that they went and put in seats around the upper part of that gym just so they could be bigger than the Lloyd
try
E.
hard.
Scott gym, which is a wonderful facility as well.
Hmm.
We are so lucky in this state to have these great gyms that have
Hmm.
so much history, and that's a great question. But for me, it's probably Muncie, the Muncie Fieldhouse.
Yeah. For me, uh, 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 okay, okay, let me think. So for me, like my top three gyms, uh, so number one, like it's definitely Mooresville because Mooresville definitely has the best gym in the mid state.
Murray
And
Center is a great gym. It
yes,
is, and I love how you talked about the concessions, the way they do concessions at Sullivan. I love the way they do the concessions at the Curry Center.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually know the grandson or knew the grandson of the person the Curry Center was named after. A good friend of mine is no longer with us, but he's a Marion County prosecutor, Terry Curry. His grandfather was the namesake of the Curry Center. So that is a fantastic gym.
Yes.
Girls sectional, I guess, is going to be there too, unless something changes.
Yeah,
Unless
definitely.
maybe they can get a volleyball net down or have a show choir thing or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go back. Yeah, going back to the show choir thing. I don't know. I don't know why. Uh, I don't know why they ended up just. So I don't know why like they ended up like just moving like that whole girls basketball section like a couple years ago to Ben Davis like from Plainfield because the whole like I think the whole thing with it like was when we were hosting QCI because of
Right.
show choir. But the thing is that that show choir tournament, I mean the show choir awards like aren't until late at night on a Saturday. So
Yeah, but you probably with parking and everything else,
yeah.
you know, they had that situation with the regional at Decatur for a few years, and I don't think people realize how big show choir is in Indiana. You know,
Mm-mm.
if you're not in that entire community, you really don't realize how big like these show choir shows are, and they're fantastic. If you ever go, and I
Yes.
mean they're wonderful. It's wonderful to see everybody perform, but you can't host a big event the same day. You could
No.
have the best facility in the state, and I still don't think maybe they could get away with it at Newcastle. I don't know, but you could have the biggest gym in the state, and you still would have problems. I think hosting a major tournament with that. I know they did at Decatur. They tried to do it a couple years in a row where they had the DC show choir um, program had a huge event the same day they did the girls regional, and it parking was just crazy because you know there are a lot of parking spots at Decatur, but when a lot of them are being taken up for another event, it makes it very difficult. And like had to park over here at like the middle school to get to the high school, and yeah, that wasn't mathing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's why Decatur is not hosting the regional anymore. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. Now the whole thing like with show choir being big, I I actually have I have experience with that because I hope you realize this, but when I was in high school, like all 4 years, like I was in choir too.
Yeah,
Uh, uh, like I was in choir, like like along with freshman baseball, uh, jun- then then we got to junior and senior year basketball, and but it went from like my junior and senior year, like we had three concerts. I mean, we had three concerts Friday night and then two on Saturday, like for the Christmas shows. And what ended up happening, so what ended up happening was, what ended up happening that first year was, uh, yeah, what ended up happening like that first year was that I had to miss like the game, like I had to miss the Plainfield game at Martinsville and at Zionsville. But then my senior year, like I wanted to make sure, like I wanted to make sure that that I didn't miss a game, like or something. So I actually got to miss. I got to skip like that first choir concert because Plainfield was playing at home against Martinsville, so I didn't have to travel. And I
yeah.
have another funny basketball story for you, and I know you will be laughing at this, but senior year basketball, we were at Perry Meridian. I have a picture on my phone. I'm gonna have to send it to you. And so my senior year at Perry Meridian. So that last week. So during that week, I was getting over a sickness, and I was feeling good enough like to go to Perry, and I still felt like crap. And, okay, I felt like crap, and I
You're a
went
gamer
to
though. You play hurt.
yeah, uh, yeah, but I went to Perry Meridian, felt like absolute crap, and uh, uh but but okay, the picture I have like is a picture that my friend wanted me like to actually wanted me to do just like what he did like a couple years ago when he managed, but he got in front of the uh Falcons logo on the wall with his bag and stuff, with the bag and stuff. So I got in front of that, and I had my Chick-fil-A sandwich like in one hand, like in one hand on my side, and like in the uh, like then in the picture, like I did this, I did the L for lost, but you can see it in my face. But you can see it in my face. I was not well.
Yeah.
Like you can see how pale I am. I mean, you can definitely see how pale I am. But yeah, well, that will do
That's
it
another
for
place they do good concessions, though.
yes,
Meridian.
yes, yeah,
Anywhere you let your dad's club do the concessions,
yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Oh yeah, but more about the stadiums. I do have to say that the Mid-State Conference, although the Mid-State Conference is not a good basketball conference, state gym slash stadium wise, like they probably have the most unique gyms, like in the entire state. Uh, 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 like for example, Plainfield's gym, like Plainfield's gym, very wide, and it's a very tough, and it's a very tough gym. Not tough, but it's a very underrated tough gym like to play in.
Yeah,
Because
because you
yeah,
have the student sections on the ends. That makes it
yeah,
always tougher. Yeah.
yeah. Then the Curry Center at Mooresville. Uh, then we get to Decatur Central, like that two section thing. Then we get to Perry Meridian. Uh, I'm giving props to Perry because Perry Meridian actually has a nice gym. Although Perry is not a good basketball school.
They have a great athletic director at Perry Meridian.
Yes, yes,
She does a wonderful job.
yes. And then we get to Martinsville. Uh, 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 like then we get to Martinsville. Like in Martinsville's gym, like is really nice.
They have the John Wooden sculpture that doesn't look anything like John Wooden.
Now that's the funniest thing. So when Jonathan like and I went there this year, so he was making a joke. So he joked around and said that looked like Joe Biden. So so I got a picture with
Apparently,
yeah.
they use the principal. This is what I've heard, so this may not be the true story, but they used whoever the principal was as a model for that sculpture. And yeah, at
Uh,
that time,
yeah, I don't know why they would do. I don't know why they would do that. I think so. There are then then another very underrated gym like in the mid state, Whiteland. Like we have Whiteland's because Whiteland actually has a tunnel like that you walk through, just like Carmel's. But the fans have to walk through that too. One has that tunnel area. Then and I don't know anything about Bloomington's. I mean Bloomington North's gym. I've
well,
never
and
been there.
Franklin's got a pretty much a brand new gym. I mean, pretty recently.
I for me, uh, uh, uh I think, in my opinion, Franklin has a worse gym in the Mid-State because, and the only reason why, okay, I like Franklin's gym, but the only reason why I hate their gym is because of the air system they have in there. Uh, not because of the heat and stuff, but the chlorine particles from the pool gets into the air ducts, into the air system, and I got some on my face and some in my
Oh,
eyes during my senior year game at Franklin. Like that
oh,
was the only part of Franklin's gym I didn't like, uh, but everything else I did like. But yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, that will do it for today's Thundercast, and I know for a fact by looking at the time. Congratulations! This is the longest Thundercast in my history of doing this podcast. So
Hey, I'm a high school teacher, so I can talk until I hear a bell. So
I yeah yeah
nobody
I
rings a
know.
bell, I'll just keep talking.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, that will do it for today's longest episode of the Thundercast. Thank you so much for joining, and I
Thank you.
and I can promise you I will have you on again at some point, probably after football season because we will have football to talk about and then the start of basketball.
I
So
will look forward to it.
yeah, well, thanks for joining and yeah.